everyone. I hope you are having a great week. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be doing a little bookish confessions. These confessions are basically either opinions that are a little unpopular in the Bookstagram community or things that I just don't talk about very much on my pages. So I'm confessing to all of that today. I will be telling you 10 bookish confessions, counting all the way down to my number one confession, which I think is a really unpopular one. So let's get started. Number 10, I always judge a book by its cover. Starting with one that I think is pretty common here, I always judge a book by its cover. There are so many books to look at and read and pick from, and we don't have the time to read the blurb for every single book. So I think most of us, when we go into the bookstore, pick up the covers that we think are interesting to us and judge them based off of that. I definitely do, and I think I may even go a little step further with that. What I mean by that is that I have this preconceived notion when I look at a book, and if it's pretty, I'm going to like the blurb better. If you put the same blurb on a different book that's not as pretty, I'm not as likely to want to buy that book. And part of that is because I want pretty books on my bookshelf. And part of that is I'm just really biased towards pretty things, and I will buy things that are pretty based off of being pretty. Number 9 is that I always say I'm going to DNF books, and then I always feel like I have a responsibility to the book to finish it, so I don't DNF books. So I don't fully understand why I do this to myself. I know that life is short. We don't have time to read all the books we want in the world. And yet, I feel like I have a responsibility to the book to finish it. I also think I feel like I'm wasting time if I started a book and I don't finish it. And which is crazy because I'm going to waste more time reading something I'm not enjoying. But I just feel like at least then I can say I finished something and I accomplished something. So I don't DNF books as often as I should and as often as I set it as a goal for many times. And that's that. Number 8 is I think there are 3 main bookish hobbies, which are buying books, reading books, and then organizing books on your bookshelf. So there are obviously more bookish hobbies like book journaling, which I do, but I think there have been so much conversation on Bookstagram community about the difference between buying books and reading books as a hobby. And I wanted to implement a third one that I think a lot of us really do a lot, but maybe we don't talk about as much, which is reorganizing the bookshelf over and over again, which is just fun. I think it's really fun, and I think it should be counted as a hobby just as much as buying books and reading books. And yeah, that's my take on it. Number 7 is that I have aphantasia, which means I do not see while I'm reading, and I think that's best. I saw this thread a few months ago about this person who was in disbelief that there are some people that when they read, they cannot see what they're reading in their head. If you aren't aware, aphantasia is basically the inability to create mental images, and it is estimated to affect about 2 to 5% of the population. Basically, I'm not able to see things in my head. For the longest time, I thought that was normal. When people said that they can see it, I thought they were being exaggerative, or I don't know, just that was the best way to describe it. I didn't realize people actually saw images in their head when they're reading things or when they're imagining things, basically. And I can't do that. That's not how it works in my brain. It's all I see is black constantly. Under the threads, someone had replied that yes, and they have it, and they were explaining what it's like to them, and the original threader responded something like, well, then why do you read? Which is a valid question when you could watch movies or consume stories in different ways that you could see things. However, I never thought of that before I saw that. I never thought my experience as a reader might be different from others in the terms of what we are experiencing. So that made me think words have a very special place in my heart, and probably likely because of my aphantasia, because when I rethink about my memories or a movie I've watched or etc., that comes in as words, not visually, but all I have are words to remember things by. So for the longest time, I would try to memorize every little detail of every single thing that I've experienced so that I have more words to re-experience it through. So words to me are everything, you know? So in a strange way, books kind of skip that middle step. I don't have to focus on memorizing every little detail because they've given me every single detail that matters, which means I can cling on to them even more and remember it even better than if there was an image. I'm rambling, but basically aphantasia is probably what made me a lover of words. I wouldn't probably read as much if I imagine things, and so I'm happy I have it, even if that means I don't get to see all the amazing pictures that you guys do. And yes, I do feel jealous of that sometimes when I'm reading a book I love, but I do overall think it's better that I have aphantasia. Number 6, when I dislike a book, I will look for negative reviews online so that I can feel justified in my dislike for it. I feel like this one might be a little bit more common still, but it feels like a confession because I feel like it's a bad habit to have. Basically, when I dislike a book, especially a popular one or one that was recommended to me, I look for assurance that I'm not alone when I have disliked the book. I like to see if people saw the same issues in the book that I did, and also just see what other people are saying about the book. And sometimes I look at the positive reviews too to see why people like this book that I clearly didn't. And I think this is a bad habit only in the fact that I should be confident in what I feel about a book. Other people's thoughts on the book should hold no part in my relationship with said book, even if it's that I dislike the book. And so I don't like that I go to look for validation outside of that. However, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's still a bad habit, so it's a confession today. Number 5, I am intimidated by classics. Okay, we're getting to some of the confessions that I'm more nervous about here. I was an English major in college, and so I read a lot of classics in my classes, but I still feel intimidated by them, which makes me feel a little embarrassed to say since I spent so much time with them. I sometimes felt like a fraud in my classes because here I was reading these amazing writers and poets, and I didn't understand a lot of it. And then my professor would go and explain it, and they'd explain all the metaphors and similes and the meaning behind everything. And I felt like this dumb moment, like, oh, of course the grasshopper means the common class, and of course the red balloon means freedom. Which is crazy. But I think that's why it's so intimidating to me, because classics have been around so long that every little detail has a meaning. Every little detail has already been thoroughly examined by professors and students and everyone else who reads for years. And so there is a specific meaning to every little thing, which makes me nervous because when I read things, I don't always have the same interpretations other people have. You probably don't have the same interpretations other people have. So I get intimidated because they have this established meaning for everything, and if I think of it a different way or a wrong way, I feel wrong, like I feel bad, I feel sad that I didn't understand it to the level that everyone else has, which is crazy because that's not what reading is. It's an art, so it should be enjoyable no matter what you see it as. But basically the stories themselves I can get behind. It's just that I feel nervous seeing it in a different way, and that intimidates me to read them. Number 4, when I say I'll add a book to my list, I don't always do it. This one's going to expose me a lot here, but sometimes when my friends or other bookstagrammers recommend a book to me, I do not add it to my TBR or my wish list or things like that. So let me be clear here. I don't lie. I don't mean to lie to my friends. When they recommend me a book and they explain the book, I am fully on board. I want to read this book. But time passes, and I've either forgotten to add it to my list, which I figured doesn't mean I want to read it that bad because I have so many books on the list and I would remember if I wanted something. You know, that kind of thought process of if it was important you'd remember. Basically that for books. Or 2, I was going to add it to my list, and throughout the day I thought about it and I didn't really want to read the book as much as I thought I did, which could be that I was more excited about the experience of sharing this with the person that recommended it to me versus the actual book itself. Or just it didn't appeal to me. It wasn't my taste as much as I thought it would be. So there are different reasons why I would not add it to my list. I don't intend to lie when I say I am. I want to add it to my list, but then other factors play in. If you're watching this and you have recommended me a book and it may be on my list, and it may not, I'm sorry if I didn't. I don't mean to lie to you. It's just how things work in my brain. Number 3, I look up spoilers very often. Okay, I think this is going to be a very unpopular one, but I do spoil things for myself. Through my entire Throne of Glass series experience, I was Googling things like every 10 minutes. I want to know who this person ends up with and if this person dies and who is this person. And I will Google it and I will figure it out on their fan Wikipedias and stuff. But I do spoil things. I think what it is that my appetite for knowledge exceeds the speed at which I can read a book. Which is just to say that I am impatient. I'm really curious about things. I want to know what's going to happen. And I don't want to wait until I can read it. So I will look things up. I will say that this only really happens with books that I'm really invested in. Because I'm excited to know what's going to happen. Otherwise, I do tend to have the patience and I will wait it out to see what's going to happen. But I will spoil things for books I'm loving. Number 2, I used to read the last chapter first. This definitely goes along with the last one about spoilers, but I think this is worse for the factor that I would spoil the end, which I don't usually Google when I'm looking up spoilers, so I think this is a little bit worse. This started in high school. I would read the first few chapters of a book and get invested in the characters and get to know their names, and then I would read the last few chapters of the book, and then I would read the middle of the book. I haven't done this in a long time, though I have peeked later on into a book to see if my favorite character is there, so I knew if there was something to be excited about, but I have not actually spoiled the ending to a book for myself in a long while. As much as people probably think that this is a bad thing, I don't think it actually impacted my reading as much as people would think. I was still invested in the book. Actually, I feel like there were times where I clung to the words more because if I knew that there was the ending coming up or a bad ending especially, I felt like I clung to those words more, wanting to experience every second of it before it ends. And I think that made it even a little bit better, which is crazy to say because it's spoilers, but I don't know, I feel like it was a good experience even if it's not what I do anymore, because I do think it's written that way for a reason, but I don't think it was as bad as people say it is. My number 1 confession is that I don't mind if books in a series are a different size or style. In fact, I prefer it. I don't think this is as bad as the last one, but I do think it is more unpopular of an opinion to have, so this is my number 1 slot. People that know me know that I like the mismatched, eclectic, scrapbooky style of everything meshing together in its own creation. I like seeing differences in things, so it seems pretty normal to me, but very, very weird to others. I'm always seeing people on Bookstagram say that they hate when a book is a different size in a series or when the cover is just a really different style. And to me, that just looks so clinical when all my books are so next to each other. I know that's a weird way to describe it, but to me, when a series is next to each other and they look like the same thing, it looks a little sad on my shelf. It doesn't feel as homey, and I don't know, I like when they're all different. I don't mind if they're different sizes and styles. Each book is so different on the inside, even if they're part of the same series, and I think I just want the outside cover in the book itself to match that in its own uniqueness, even if it's part of a series, and it just feels right for it to have its own personality since the book has its own personality. And that is all 10 of my bookish confessions. Let me know down in the comments if we have any of these in common or if any of these absolutely horrified you. I hope you all are having a great start to spring. Thank you so much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed and subscribe for more bookish content. Until next time, happy reading. I hate talking. Now you. Got it. Thanks. People on my